What's up guys, and welcome back to another top 10 video. Today we have the top 10 best in slot equips in MapleStory. So what does best in slot mean? It means that the equipment in that slot is the absolute best. It will never get replaced by another item because it is the absolute best in the game, as a current of making this video, of course, right? Until next one releases something better. So there are a couple criteria that I have to rank these items because they are quite similar, because each item is a different slot, so it can't really be compared to another item. But I will be ranking them in how easy is it to actually get the item, and how likely of an upgrade it is even after you get the item, because items do boom in this game, which means completely destroyed, so you have to start from scratch, which is really bad. And how big of an upgrade it is, right? Because there's a lot of items in the game that is comparable in or even rivals the stats of the pitch boss items, which means it's a small upgrade even if you did get it to 22 stars. As well as some honorable mentions that there's some specific scenarios where items are good and are bad, sort of thing, because GMS and KMS differences, right? But yeah, let's get right into it. Starting off the list at number 10, we have the Cra Set. No, I'm kidding. It has been replaced because of the Destiny patch, the new boss Galax. He is dropping the new set, which is the Eternal set, for the hat, top, and bottom, which has greater set effects, which is nice. But unfortunately, at the time of recording this video, the boss is unclearable because it has super high Sacred Force requirements, which is pretty much time-gated players, so players can't really clear it, not even in reg servers right now. So it's only a matter of time before we start clearing the boss and the Cra set will be replaced eventually. And it works the same way, just gather 10 of the emblem drops and just trade it in for that Eternal set. So technically Cra is best in slot right now, but once we get, start clearing the boss Galax, then Cra is no longer best in slot, so that's why it's number 10. And assuming that those emblem drops are, frequent, it'll be really easy to replace, so, then we'll eventually get a 22-star Eternal set, right? At number 9, I have the Superior Galax set. So I did say in my criteria that if it's likely an upgrade, it would be higher on this list. Technically, Superior Galax is pretty much guaranteed upgrades, and it is best in slot, because of its insane set effect at 4 and 3rd set, which has attack and boss and IED, so it should technically be pretty much like top 5 of this list. But technically Superior Galax is really easy to actually get to 22 stars because it's just a bunch of dailies, and then you get your items there, and you can even transfer hammer to bypass some of the booms, even so you don't have to spend 700 coins, which is 25 coins per day. It takes a pretty long time to actually get the superior items just from buying it, but still it's really easy to replace, and it is pretty much guaranteed gains once you get through the grind. It should be higher on this list, but I figured Superior Galax is really easy, really easy to get, so it'll be number 9 on this list. At number 8, we have the Arcane Armor pieces, consisting of 4 equips: the shoulder, the glove, the cape, and the boot. So now in the Destiny patch, you're allowed to actually buy droplets from the shop for 50 mil each, or 48 mil or something like that, because of the guild discount if you're in a guild, right? It's about like 5.2 bill or 5 bill or something per armor piece. So eventually you'll actually get 5 set arcane really quickly. Technically in the end game, you just need 4 set arcane and 1 genesis weapon, of course, right? But that's how the Arcane Armor pieces work. They are best in slot for now, and if you get them to 22 stars, you're pretty much finished with those 4 armor pieces. And it's a massive upgrade from Absolab, because the 22 stars really huge gains, as well as the flame upgrades from Absolab to Arcane is massive. So you'll definitely get to see a lot of gains there. And of course it's guaranteed gains because, again, you can buy the droplets, which means you'll eventually grind out all the Arcane Armor's pieces until they're 22 stars. At number 7, we have the Magic Eye Patch, the first pitch boss item on this list. And the Magic Eye Patch is the eyes accessory for the best in slot. So the Magic Eye Patch is considered to be the worst one, besides the Dreamy Belt and the Dark Knell earrings, because those break the Galax set effect, which means it's not relevant for GMS until you get the 7th set effect or something, just to barely beat the superior Galax set, of course. But that's another conversation. But the Magic Eye Patch replaces the Sweetwater monocle that is transposed from a Chaos Papillast mark, which has really good stats actually. Sometimes the transposed Sweetwater monocle is actually super high statted, because if you transpose from a Chaos Papillast mark that is has a Godly Flame on it, it'll be very hard to beat with the magic eye patch. So the magic eye patch is technically not really big gains over the Sweetwater Monocle for this reason, which is why the magic eye patch is number 7, as well as Damien is an easier boss to actually solo in the end game, which makes the eye patch, priority loot for yourself pretty high actually, compared to the other pitch boss items. At number 6, I have the Berserk from Lotus. So the Berserk is the best in slot item for the face accessory. The Berserk would have been higher on this list, however in the Destiny patch we actually got a new boss drop from Lucid and Will, the Twilight Mark. The Twilight Mark is a face accessory as well. It can be 22 starred and it has a boss flame, unlike the previous placeholder for the Berserk item slot, which was a 22 star Sweetwater tattoo, which was a GMS exclusive item, which means it has no boss flame, so it has a really terrible flame. So the gains were there because the Berserk has a good flame and the Sweetwater tattoo had a really bad flame. But now that the Twilight Mark is a new placeholder, it is comparable to the Berserk in stats. However, it's ranked over the Magic Eye patch is because the Sweetwater Monocle Transpose is a lot easier to obtain, because you just need the Pat Mark once and then the Sweetwater is just continuous dailies, while the Twilight Mark you need to continually do Lucid and Will and get that Twilight Mark until it's 22 stars basically. At number 5 we have the Endless Tear, which is the best in slot ring from Chaos Gloom. Because it's a ring and there's 4 slots for rings, there are various placeholders for the Endless Tear, of course, because there's many rings, such as the Galax rings, that have comparable stats to the Endless Tear. Of course, the Endless Tear has the most stats because it's the best in slot ring, plus it's part of the pitch boss item set, which means you get another extra set effect bonus, which other rings just have raw stats for it. But the Endless Tear is really good because it's a ring, which means you don't have to flame it. Unfortunately, it is a level 200 item, which means the Star Force cost is a bit more expensive. At number 4, we have the Source of Suffering, the best in slot pendant from Versus Hilla. So this is pretty similar to the eye patch situation with Damien, because the stand-in placeholder for the before you get this pendant, of course, is a Transpose Sweetwater item, which is the Sweetwater pendant, which you get from transposing a 16-star Dominate pendant from Arcarium towards the Sweetwater pendant. So it's much easier to get the Dominate pendant than a Chaos Papulatus mark, but the Sweetwater pendant is more expensive to actually replace with 400 dinero compared to like the 250 dinero. So it's more expensive, and the stats are still comparable. So it's pretty similar to the Magic Eye Patch. But why would the Magic Eye Patch be number 7 instead of number a higher place on the list? It's because the Source of Suffering is a level 160 equipment as well. However, because we're in GMS, there is also a 150 pendant, which is the Superior Galax pendant, which we can indeed transfer hammer towards the Source of Suffering, meaning getting to 21 stars is pretty much 100% foolproof. You don't need another drop just in case it booms, because it won't boom because you'll be transfer hammering from 22 to 21 to the Source of Suffering. Unless you want to tap it that 1 star, then it might boom and you might need a couple of spares. But it's relatively easy to actually get the 22 Source of Suffering if you're lucky enough. Coming into the top 3, we have the Mitras Rage from Saren, the Saren Emblem drop. This Saren Emblem is indeed an emblem, meaning it cannot be starred, so it can't be destroyed, which means it's 100% an upgrade if you get one, as well as it can't be flamed, which means you don't have to spend extra mesos to actually flame it. So the only thing you actually need to do is cube it, which could be pretty cheap if you're going for, settable lines, or unless you're going for like the double prime attack. That might be a bit expensive. But otherwise, the Mitras Rage is 100% a gain, and it's part of Pitch Boss item set, which makes it very good. At number 2, we have the Cursed Spellbook from Hardwill, the best in slot pocket item. The placeholder before the Cursed Spellbook is the Pink Bean Cup, so it's pretty big upgrade from the Pink Bean Cup all the way to the Cursed Spellbook. Cursed Spellbook cannot be starred because it's a pocket item. It cannot be cubed because it's a pocket item, meaning that you don't have to cube or star it, which means it can't be destroyed, which is a lot of mesos saved, and once you get 1 book, you're pretty much finished. So it's a guaranteed gain as well. But the good thing about this over Mitras Rage is that it is more highly accessible, because Saren is still relatively a hard boss to do solo, basically. I don't think anyone can actually solo in Reboot. So you actually have to share the priority loot to other party members. My party specifically does a blink challenge. But for Cursed Spellbook, most people can actually solo DPS it, meaning you have a higher chance to actually get that Cursed Spellbook if you're lucky. At number 1, if you haven't already guessed it, it is indeed the Genesis weapon. So the Genesis weapon is obtained through the Liberation quest by killing Black Mage 8 times and his 8 commanders, all the way from Von Leon to versus Hela, solo or duo now. Dual Liberation is a thing now, so that's great. So once you get enough stats, you can actually liberate a Genesis weapon, guaranteed, because it is part of the quest line. The Genesis weapon comes with 22 stars, so you don't actually need to star force it, so you can't exactly destroy the weapon, and no, you cannot 23 star the weapon. And if you do want to exchange for a different weapon, you have to restart the Liberation quest, so that's kind of unfortunate. But the Genesis weapon is a lucky item, which means it's part of multiple set effects, including the Arcane set and the Cra set, which also includes the new Kalos set, meaning that it can act as the weapon in both set effects, which means you get double the set effect, which is huge. Not to mention, the Genesis weapon also has 2 little skills built into the weapon itself. The first one is a final damage buff. Every time you attack, you get this buff for a couple seconds, and then there's like a internal cooldown for it. The second one's an active where you can use a key on it. You can use the Genesis iframe, which is an invincibility thing, which you can use every so often, which is great because some classes actually don't have an iframe, like a Night Lord, which makes it kind of broken on themselves, right? Because now they have an iframe that they can work with. So this weapon is super great. Not to mention the attack power of the weapon itself is much higher than Arcane weapon. Even at 22 star Arcane, it's still much better, way much better, because of its skills built in as well. So the Genesis weapon is indeed the best item in the game compared to every other item on this list as well. So yeah, that's it for the list. I do have a couple of honorable mentions, as I said before at the beginning of the video. The Genesis badge, if you don't have a potable badge, Genesis badge is technically the best item for you to get. You can't have a pot on it, but it's still part of the pitch boss set, which means it counts towards that set effect, so you can get that 4 set with that crit damage if you actually really need it. I forgot to mention that the Ring of Strength Roar 4 is a good item, which pretty much could be considered as a best in slot ring as well, but it's hard to gauge where to put it on the list because people can get it really easily or very difficult. Because yeah, it's luck based, it's RNG based from loot boxes from the Tower of Oz, so it's really hard to determine where to put this item on this list, so I'll just put it up here in honorable mentions, but it's a end game item for sure. But yeah, that's it for the list. Thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.